It's going all right. We're here. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, beautiful people, and welcome to Just Tell Us, a live LinkedIn or Instagram where we will bring in leaders who will tell us the tea on how they've quieted their noises to live their lives out loud while honoring their ancestral roots. So, for those who do not know me, my name is Jessica Araneta Velasco. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a second generation Filipina American multi passionate entrepreneur as a certified coach, speaker, facilitator, educator. I wear a lot of hats, let's be honest. However, I'm currently bringing my energy as a founder of JessSayIt, a life and leadership coaching and consulting firm, helping first and second generation overachievers, people pleasers free themselves from subconscious survival mentality to reintegrate peace, purpose, and play to unlock radical joy, even when facing fears of doubt, so you can show up in life and in leadership confident in who you are and in your next steps. So if you haven't met, please introduce yourself and tell us where you're calling in from. Well, not calling, woo, watching from. So, y'all, for those who do not know, I went to a predominantly white school in in Westchester County. And subconsciously, I knew that I wanted to be part of a larger community. And I was actually one out of three Asians in my graduating class. However, I didn't let that stop me from finding the community that I wanted to be part of. So I learned about Rush. Rush Week is where sororities and fraternities, you get to learn about different organizations. And it wasn't until the first day of Rush Week where I go into the room and today's guest welcomed me with open arms. And it was in that moment where I knew that I belonged as who I am in all parts of my identities. So it brings me great honor to introduce the sorority sister I've always admired to today. Amanda Vacca is a New York State licensed psychotherapist and psychotherapist with an undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's in mental health counseling from our alma mater, Iona University. It used to be a college, but now it's a university, so it gets me tripped up. Anyways, she is the owner of Mindful Living Counseling and Consulting, LLC in Westchester County. Amanda specializes in trauma and EMDR with a focus on intergenerational trauma. Period. Let that sit, y'all. She works on guiding individuals through life's transitions and challenges to help them feel their best. So, without ado, it is my honor to introduce Amanda.
Thank you so much for that intro. So special. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. Amanda, we have so much to learn from you, so we're going to dive right in. Could you please share us a little bit about yourself, the identities that you hold, and what was it like being a child of immigrants, especially growing up in Upper Westchester County, New York?
Yeah, thank you. So that's a lot of questions mashed up into one. I'm thinking about where to begin. I'll start with my identities. Today I will respond by saying that I am a first generation American woman. Mother, wife, daughter, granddaughter, sister. Those are the identities that I hold closest to my heart. It's where duty calls, and certainly a therapist, right? Business owner. I founded Mindful Living Counseling and Consulting in 2020 at the tail end of the end of 2020.
Oh, it was really just a pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I
Wow.
had my first daughter in 2020 and
Yes.
realized very quickly, like, I need the flexibility to be there for my family, show up for my family, and be present for my family in the ways that I want to be, in the ways that they need me, while still doing what I love. And I didn't, I wasn't prepared to flush anything down the toilet in terms of how hard I had worked to advance my career. And I said, you know what, I'm going to just dive into this. I'm going to open my own practice because I really want to be able to serve people still. And so the pandemic kind of prompted that journey for me, which was a beautiful thing. Yeah, so that's me. I work in Westchester. I have mindful living. I work predominantly with young adults dealing with intergenerational trauma and facing life transitions. And that's really my niche at this point. It's quite specific, but it's the population that I really, that I just really love working with.
Yeah. I mean, oh, there's a back. Hold on. Why is there a back? Is that better? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, first, I didn't realize you just opened in 2020 because for the longest time I thought you've had this practice for years. And I'll never forget during the pandemic when you had your daughter, the vulnerability that you were sharing. Being a mother during the pandemic must have been a whole level of just fear because the world was ending what we thought, right? And of course, life have happened, but the resilience that you had during that time, what other than the flexibility, what was that like aha moment where you realized, oh no, this is not, the 9 to 5 is not serving me, and I know I can do other things with a practice?
So I was working in someone else's practice. And I think this kind of fits nicely into our discussion about, excuse me, feeling small and like breaking free from that mold of staying quiet and keeping yourself small to appease others or whatever. I had been working in someone else's practice, somebody that I, till this day, am very appreciative of. And I feel, well, immensely proud to say that this person was a mentor to me. However, there was definitely this notion that like I needed to appease her and make her happy, and that I couldn't break free from that, right? Like I couldn't do this on my own. I owe all of this to her.
Yeah.
When in reality, I had an enlightening moment, I think, after I had my daughter, that, something clicked. It was like, you know what? No, actually, I have established a reputation for myself and I can do this. And I too am a great business person, or can be, and I'm a great therapist and I can do this.
Yeah.
And so that was it was like a culmination of things that came together that prompted me to go out on my own.
Wow. Yeah. Let's dive into the staying small, because I think that's a big thing that we would love to talk about. Being first and second generation, especially women, right? There's so many cultural identities where we were taught to be small, to not only appease to others, but to fit in, let's say. What were the earliest memories of you of maybe, and again, you could interpret this in your way, of what staying small looked like, whether it was in your family, whether it was in at work, or even at school, or even any cultural identities that taught us to be that small?
Yeah. So I'll share that my mother is Brazilian and my father's Portuguese. And with that, I'm first generation American. And I, in my nuclear family, I'm the first person in my family to graduate with my master's. My mom started her master's and then she didn't complete it because she became pregnant with me. And I'm going to speak freely, in my mind, not just in my mind. I think there's a cultural element to this, or piece to this, but at least among the Portuguese culture, it's a very patriarchal society. It's a very patriarchal culture. And so quite traditional that, women of my mom's generation would stay home and be homemakers and caretakers and stay at home moms.
Yeah.
And so, however, my mom was always like a go-getter, like a hustler. Always really ignited this fire in me to do more and be more. And, she never wanted me to subscribe to that idea that like women should stay small and, keep themselves small for the sake of men or whoever. Yeah. She never reinforced that. But I think there were some subtle messages, and she'll probably watch this and be like, "Oh my gosh, I traumatized you." You did it.
We love you, Mom. Don't worry. We still love you.
But, nonetheless, there were these subtle messages that were there, right? Because she was an amazing mom. She was an amazing homemaker. She was, she did it really well. And so that was interesting. There was kind of like this dichotomy there in terms of the messages that I received.
Yeah. And by the way, at JessTellUs, we are not shying away. Like, we're being honest and
Okay.
truthful.
Okay. Good.
Recognize, and we also have to recognize the historical events within our cultural identities that affects us to this day. Even though our parents necessarily put it directly on us, it's still culturally embedded, right? Like, I can
Yes.
speak for Filipino culture, colonialism, right? Spaniards, what did they do to a lot of Filipinos? Embed Catholicism. And what did that? Shame, guilt. It's a whole lineage, right? And we also have to honor the beautiful Brazilian, Portuguese cultures, and recognizing that machismo was still a thing, right?
Yeah.
Even till this day, growing in Miami, and I'm sure you still see it in New York, right? Like, it's big. And again, we love our families. We're not eradicating that. The reality is we also need to speak our truth and what's going on. So it sounds like she was always that go-getter, but never, it was just deeply in our lineage. Does that sound?
Yeah, the message that women serve men, right? Quite
Yeah.
literally, right? Dinner was always ready, 7:30, on the
Mhm.
table, and just in a broader sense, so it's there. And I love that you say it's important for us to really respect that cultural element and what's there, because there absolutely is nothing but respect.
Mhm.
But just the realization that that was a struggle, right? Like that we can break that cycle now, right?
Mhm.
And that we can recognize that as just not okay, right? That just being able to recognize that, I think, is really important.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, so the family that you grew up in and being the psychotherapist that you are, were feelings spoken about in your home growing up? Or like, what
Mhm.
was that like being a first gen American?
Um, my father is not on social media.
There.
So I will say he is emotionally, I think some people would say, like, emotionally void.
Mm,
I think it's quite clear he's the oldest of 6 siblings,
yeah.
and he came here at a really ripe age. He was like 11 or 12,
Mhm.
and was sent to work. He didn't have the opportunities that many children had. He certainly didn't have the opportunities that many of his siblings had.
Mm,
And so, he talk about machismo like he's all of that, right? He
yeah.
looks like all of that. He represents all of that. But he's a quite sensitive guy.
Yeah, they really are. They're like,
Yeah,
let's pause.
yeah,
It's the irony of the machismo culture. It's because they are sensitive and
yeah,
because they do have those feelings that they were taught to repress. But
of
anyways,
course.
continue. Please go.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's I agree with you. So we didn't discuss feelings with him, but it was always encouraged with my mom. My
Mm,
mom was very open. And, there was a stark difference in a lot of ways, and there is, between the Brazilian culture and the Portuguese culture,
mm,
even though they are very much intertwined. So Brazilian people tend to be more open in a lot of ways.
mm.
My mom always really talked about emotions, and it was always encouraged. So I think that absolutely gave way to my career path.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'd like to pivot a little bit and talk
Mm.
about being a business owner and recognizing the trials and tribulations, especially being a first gen business owner. Was business ever spoken about in your family? Like, what was that journey like for you? And I'm going to ask a follow up question later on about the trials and errors of being a business owner.
We'll need a part 2 for that.
We're not wrong there. You're not wrong.
So I was fortunate. My dad still owns a business.
Yeah.
There's a lot to admire about my dad. And he started his own business at a really young age. I think he was in his teens. Till
Oh,
this day, that business is thriving. He runs it out of a marble notebook and has his own system for doing everything that he does. But you know what? It works swimmingly. It's a masonry company, very different, obviously, from the work that I do, but it's a people-facing business, right? He's
wow.
always dealt with people and interacted with people, and that's something that I always had the opportunity to observe.
Yeah.
So in terms of business, that was always modeled for me. There are like a number of people in my family that are small business owners, and really successful in their ventures, very committed to their business. So that was a really great model for me.
Yeah, for sure. So then when you shared that you wanted to start your business, was there like pushback? Was there hesitation? Was it encouragement?
No, total encouragement.
Oh,
I'd say, not only for my family, but I was married, right? And so, had my first child. That was a tremendous jump. It was a risk, right? Because, I mean, business is always risky, but, we had a baby. That would mean that I was foregoing my benefits. My husband was going to, my husband was just, and still is, a tremendous support for me. So I have to, really thank him for that. He always, he was definitely, um, definitely there to kind of quell that inner voice that said, no, you owe this to the people that helped mentor you, and you can't do this on your own, and you work for them, and, that kind of thing. So I have a great support system.
that's beautiful. Yeah. It's, I don't know about you, but sometimes within media, there's this like being a business owner is great, but we also don't talk about the risk as much, right? So what was the biggest risk that you didn't realize would actually affect your day to day when you started becoming a business owner?
That my income was contingent upon how many clients I was seeing in a day, right? And, that's obviously a risk. It's like, if I don't have the clientele and I'm not sitting with people, I'm not making money. If I worked for an agency and I was given immense amounts of paperwork and, calls and other things, I'd still be getting paid hourly, right? So
Yeah.
I'd say, in terms of risk, it was that. Um, I agree with you. I think social media, particularly the pandemic,
Mm,
inspired people to to pursue the flexibility that they always desired, and to pursue their dreams.
mhm.
And, excuse me, that was a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. That being said, I think there's this false notion that it's easy to do that. You know,
Can you repeat that again? Because I think
yeah,
that's a really important note.
that social media and the pandemic has given us this false notion that, you know, business is easy. And it's not, right? And I mean, in terms of just like in the mental health space, there are all of these platforms, right? Like
Mhm.
BetterHelp and, Headway. And I mean, I could just go on and naming them for like hours probably,
Yeah.
that again make it seem easy to just start a business and start seeing clients. And it's not just easy.
No, it's we are one whole company if you think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah,
right?
one man show. I say it all the time. I'm a one man show.
Yeah,
One
and on
woman
top of
show.
one queen show. How about that? One queen show and all the other responsibilities we have. I wanna go back to you being the mother that you are to the 2 beautiful daughters that you and Danny share. You mentioned needing to have a pause in your business. I think it was with your second daughter. What was that moment like for you where you realized you had to take that pause? And also, how did you overcome any mental hurdles that were coming through, whether it was imposter or whether it was like, were there any doubts of like giving up on the practice?
So the pause came twice.
Mm,
Um, Once with my first daughter. Well, I wasn't in business yet. I wasn't in business for myself yet. But
mhm,
there definitely was that moment during maternity leave where I reflected. I think that was a kind of a special circumstance, though, because it was the pandemic. We were in lockdown, 2 days later after she was
mhm,
born. And I felt this real pull to return to work. I had
mm,
intended to take, 8 weeks off. I planned for that financially. But I felt like I need to get back to work. The world needs therapy.
yeah,
And so I did return from maternity leave a little bit earlier than intended with her.
mhm,
Once I had my second daughter, which was, 2 years later, I was on maternity leave again and then in business for myself, and, planned to take this maternity leave.
mhm,
Um, I did not feel as compelled to rush back to work then,
mm,
because now I had two children. It was like really chaotic. I recognized that I needed the time, that they needed me.
mhm,
But there have been numerous times where I have laid in bed and looked up at the ceiling and thought, should I just throw in the towel here? Would it be easier to just wake up in the morning and go to, a job at some busy agency that overworks me and get home late and just figure it out and, but have that security and have, not have to have the same worries that I have with business.
Yeah.
And I think there's a cultural element to that.
Period. Not think, there is, period.
There's an element to that. There's a societal element to that. Social media, I think, is toxic in a lot of ways, right? Like, feeding us all this content that we don't need, making us question how good we are at the things that we do. It's like, am I being a good enough mother? That kind of thing. But then at the end of the day, along with all of the support that I get from my family that says, do it, you could do this, you can do this, you're doing this. There's this realization that I'm doing this for my daughters. I'm doing this for them, just as my dad did for me, for us, demonstrating that, it's healthy. Women should pursue the thing that they desire, and their only calling isn't to be a mother at home. And you can be a good mother and be at work at the same time, right? And kudos to the moms that stay home full time, like holy cannoli.
That's another job in itself. Like that's a full-time job.
Full-time job. I think there was like some of me telling myself, like, I can be, a full-time mom and a businesswoman too. That doesn't mean that I'm being a part-time mom. I was like, I was wrestling with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question. It's a long-winded answer.
No, I love it. I love it. I think not only the importance of pausing and recognizing like the self-doubt, but the inspiration, what allows you to do what you do daily, and recognizing like, even though you're a business owner, that's a title of yours, that doesn't define who you are as a successful woman or a successful mother, right? I'm actually curious, was that ever a challenge, kind of separating identities between whether it was like starting your business or even recognizing like what success looked like for you as you were growing this practice?
Can you ask that in a different way?
Yeah. So sometimes as BIPOC entrepreneurs or even leaders, we define success based on the identities that we hold within our career. So Amanda's a therapist, and Amanda's always going to be a therapist, and that's what success looks like for her, being a therapist. Did you ever question that meaning of success and that identity marker for you?
No, I didn't. I think if anything, maybe subconsciously, I'll share what I'm thinking about, and then we'll come back to the question.
Love it.
So recently I was at a training, and there was this wonderful woman who is a trauma specialist, another trauma specialist, and she gave us a values assessment worksheet to do, exercise. And so that's, it's if you haven't done it, if whoever's watching has not done a values assessment exercise, do it. It's incredible. You can, find me on Instagram, and I'm happy to send you one that I've created. I think they're really important. And so in doing that exercise in this space, I was like, wow, this is an interesting reflection, because when I introduce myself at these networking events, at these trainings among colleagues, and I say, I'm Amanda, I'm a therapist, that is so deeply embedded in my identity right now at this phase in my life, because it is the thing that I sometimes put before my family. And even though I don't like the way that sounds, it's true, right?
Yeah.
There are nights that I don't put my children to bed because I'm with my clients. There are times that I miss out on things because I'm at a networking event or working. And there have been times in my life where it's been vice versa, right? Where I've put them first, and, certainly right before my work. But being a therapist is like part of my identity. I've never struggled to embrace that. I'm very, right now anyway, maybe again, that maybe subconsciously there has been something, but
what I appreciate about what you've been sharing is recognizing the power of now, right? And I think sometimes we can get lost in like either the past or the present, but the past or the future of what the life we're creating for ourselves. But the reality is, I think what I've been learning from you, Amanda, is like the actual presence of being at this moment and now and currently where you are in your phase, right? And the reality is you're going to have to do things for yourself and your family that may be looked down upon from others, but this is what you choose to do and what you want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. It's real. It's real. I give you credit for that.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. Again, they always say it's like for business owners who are business owners, we get it. And sometimes, and if you don't, that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. However, at the end of the day, like, why judge people? And that's not our job, right?
Yes.
So success is clearly never achieved solely alone. I'm curious to know, you mentioned some colleagues that you had who you looked up with. Who were the people other than your family, because we love our family, that really pushed you in your journey of being the therapist that you are and also helped you get here where you are today?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I absolutely, the first person that comes to mind, because we have this in, this in common, is one of my sorority sisters, Kaylin. You
Oh,
know,
Kaylin, hi.
she's my best friend. I love her. She's my sister, my sister. I just absolutely love her. She is a tremendous support on my hardest days. She tells me to keep going. And I love her. I thank her. My family, of course, without saying, my mom, my brother, my grandparents, my dad, my husband, those I owe everything to them. And I have colleagues. I have colleagues that I met at Iona, that I graduated grad school with, who have just been immensely supportive. We support one another. We've worked together. I've encouraged them to go out on their own, and just people I've met along the way. Honestly, clients of mine.
Yeah.
Clients of mine are some of my biggest supporters. They just keep coming back. I have a lot of long-term clients. I love doing work long-term with clients because you get to, meet them where they're at through different stages of their lives, and you kind of grow together. And I have clients that I saw before I was in business for myself, who are still with me, and I love them. I really do love my clients.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Amanda. Before we get to rapid round question, I have one question that something I've always admired about you was how you have always have the ability to stand within your presence, not only executive presence, but in your like human and like badass woman presence that you have. What is a practical tip that you can share for folks who are finding their presence, whether it's walking into a room or into a networking event or even meeting someone new for the first time?
I would say channel everything that you have learned from your ancestors and carry it with you, right? Because we talk about like breaking generational cycles and wanting to recognize the wounds that we have from intergenerational trauma, but I think there is so much to be learned too from our ancestors and the people that have come before us. I have done that myself in difficult moments. Like, what would my grandmother say? What would my grandpa tell me if he were here with me right now? And they're still alive. I'm so grateful to them, that I have them still, but I think that's the piece of advice that I would give.
I can't wait to clip this exact moment of this video and make it into a reel and keep replaying it because it's true, right? Like it's so true. And for those who haven't started their ancestral journey, we encourage you to do so because if anything, they're always watching and they're guiding you through this beautiful journey of life. I have to say that to myself too because I'm on that journey.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you, love. All right, ready for rapid round questions?
Yes.
Alrighty. So one of my favorite aspects of my ancestral culture is
I'd have to say the ancestral force of women wanting to be, not even just wanting to be, demanding to be completely seen and heard.
Yeah, period.
Yeah.
Completely seen and heard. Love it. What is the one dish I cannot live without is?
Okay. Oh boy, people are going to be mad at me.
No.
It would have to be my grandma's feijoada, which is this delicious Brazilian stew with white rice and black beans. It is amazing.
Why would they get mad at you for that?
Well, because my mom's going to be like, "You didn't choose something of mine."
But your mom made that, so you can make that too.
Yeah.
Feijoada. I've never heard of it. What's it called?
My grandma's feijoada.
Feijoada. Okay, I need to
Yeah.
Google
We'll
that.
have to plan a date. You'll have to come over for dinner. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
one day, please. I will come over. And what is one current or favorite grounding tool?
Deep breathing.
Ah.
Deep breathing. I'd say deep breathing and also planting my feet on the floor. Like I say oftentimes to people in the work that I do, be where your feet are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes just looking down at your feet planted on the floor is grounding enough.
Yeah. Are you like without socks, with shoes, or what kind of
I mean, if you can, I love to be barefoot. I'm always like barefoot. But even if you have shoes on, just feeling the toes in your shoe, pushing them into the ground, like just feeling and seeing your feet on the floor, right? I mean, that's a very simple, practical grounding tool.
For sure. I love that. Yes. All right. Ready for the final and juicy one?
Yeah, let's hear it.
If you can go back to the first year, Amanda, what is one thing you would wish you would have said either to your friend, manager, or loved one that you didn't say?
The first year, Amanda, meaning
First
what?
Amanda in business, excuse me, in business.
To my friend, manager, or
Loved one that you didn't say, you kept to yourself, but you wish you said out loud. It's juicy. Take your time, please.
I know. I'm wrestling with this one a little bit because I really try. I'm sure there's plenty that I could have said, but I really try to leave things. I try not to leave things left unsaid. You know, I really try to like speak my mind and express gratitude. And I'd say maybe express more gratitude to the people that really supported my venture.
Yeah.
Particularly my husband. Like, thanks for letting me, take this risk. Or to my mentor, like, thank you for everything that you did to guide me. And I definitely did say those things. I would just say them again.
Yeah. Love that. I mean, that's the whole point of Just Tell Us, right? What are the things that you wish you tell that you can or continue will saying? So there you go. Amanda, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your space. There's clearly a part 2 to this. However, what are you currently working on, and how can we follow you on your journey?
What am I currently working on? So I am I'm in the process of creating a group therapy cohort, which will be 8 weeks long. I don't have all of the details, but I will share them on social media once that's available. And that will be open to anybody within New York State. I'm New York State licensed right now, currently going for licensure in New Jersey and Connecticut. So that's pending. And I also offer presentations and consultation for organizations, people wanting to learn about intergenerational trauma and that sort of work. So always happy to discuss that more. You can find me on Instagram at The Therapy Chronicles. And my website, nymindfulliving.com.
Amazing. And we'll have all of those links to the show notes below. So don't you fret. Again, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. And also, Amanda, thank you for your words, your kindness, your energy, and your presence to continue moving forward.
Thank you so much. Love you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Love you too. Bye.